Well, hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Lanterns podcast here on DC Studios podcast via Multiverse of Color. I'm your host, Andy B, as always, and with me is my lovely co host, Kyle. Kyle, how are we doing today?
I'm doing great. It's such a weird state to be in because after Superman, we were going into Peacemaker, and Lanterns is the HBO prestige DCU television series, and we're only on episode 2.
Yeah, it is a bit crazy. And especially for us too, because we've seen a lot of the episodes in advance. So, like for me, I'm just kind of like, I know you're at a point where you're waiting to see the next one you haven't seen, and I'm waiting just to see the finale. So, but it's still been fun to see the reception now because because we get to we get to watch everyone's reactions and the reception as it happening live. We had the and we're gonna go through a lot of news on this episode before we get to our episode discussion. But to begin with, episode one became one of the highest viewed premieres for HBO of all time. 9.3 million views across HBO Max, and I'm guessing they're blending that with HBO as well. Like I don't know how.
It's weird because at least over here, in Canada. I'll speak for my Canadian brethren. 9 times out of 10, an HBO series, like straight HBO, 9 p.m. on Sunday, right? Like that's the time slot, is always simulcast on Crave. But there have been the 10% of HBO Max series that wind up in other places for whatever reason. It's very, very weird. Like all the main shows that you would expect, like The Pit, Peacemaker, Welcome to Derry, House of the Dragon, those are all on Crave. It's one of the things I think they need to do moving forward, as long as this merger doesn't go through, because it shouldn't, is simplify this stuff. Because even like we're also on the social media end of this, I'm posting things and I'm tagging both of them because I don't know, should I tag HBO? Should I tag HBO Max? Like when I tag Canada, it's just Crave. But it's the complexity is unnecessary.
I agree, and I think that because also we also have to remember the fact that HBO Max is also becoming it's starting to become more available now across the whole world. Like I think England just got it this year. If I remember when I think it was this year when Ben said that he was finally getting it. So, but the premiere episode, like, and I'm quoting from Deadline, the DC Studio series raked in what 9.3 million global cross-platform viewers and 6.6 million in the US in its first 3 days of availability on HBO and HBO Max per Warner Bros. Discovery. With regards to streaming, it now ranks among the top 5 series premieres on HBO Max. So it's drawing appeal from, of course, the comic book audience, but also the general viewers who like have never probably picked up a Green Lantern comic in their whole life. So that is great.
One context as well is the Penguin over 11 days. I think it was something like 10.4. So there's something to be said for incredible DC television in this time slot.
Exactly. And I'm happy to see that this shows that one, we're likely going to find out very soon if season 2 is happening or not. And then I think that and again, like Hal said, it all depends on what becomes of this merger. Because if it wasn't for this merger, I think they would be greenlighting a lot more shows right now. And I think that kind of takes us to our next point, which is, and we kind of hinted at this like last time when we recorded, but we were like, there's no chance in hell we will get that discussion through and then be able to discuss the pilot in its entirety. So Waller, Paradise Lost, and Boost to Gold are all in very peculiar situations. So let's start with Boost to Gold. Boost to Gold has lost its showrunner because the pilot that he pitched, he had finished a script for a pilot, submitted it to HBO and DC Studios. They didn't go for it, which it's normal. It is as someone who's covered television for the last 15 plus years, but also like followed like the pilot season and all traditional network television. It is normal for pilots to not always go forward. It is normal that on the first try, that pitch is just, it doesn't work for them. It's not something they want to run away with, and they put it back into development. So, But there was a lot of people generating this idea that that doesn't mean that Booster Gold has been canceled. No, but what had happened with Booster Gold was that version of Booster Gold is not moving forward, but they're looking for a new creative team. They're putting it back into redevelopment, which is that is perfectly normal. Now, Waller and Paradise Lost. So it started with that there were reports claiming that they had quietly canceled Waller and Paradise Lost.
Mhm.
And we know that Waller had his showrunner team, and we know with Paradise Lost there were rumors that a couple executive producers had been attached through the WBGA website, the Writers Guild of America listings, but we never got that confirmed if they actually are involved or not. So one website, I believe it was the Ankler, came out
Yep.
and said that those two had been canceled, and immediately everyone is like, "What is happening to the DCU? What's happening to DC Studio? Da, 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 da," all the nonsense that we always are used to seeing. And then multiple trades, Entertainment Weekly came out and said that they've been put on the back burner as opposed to being fully canceled. Because you got to remember, these shows were never greenlit, so that means that you can't cancel something that wasn't greenlit. Like it's like what? Sir,
Don't
what?
announce them. Like, I'm sorry. We're going to talk about an incredible episode of television.
Yeah,
We
yes.
are months away, almost less than 2, almost exactly 2 months away from Clayface. But the DCU is very close to Lucasfilmitis. And
Ooh, that's a
no,
no.
I'm
That's a
okay.
little bit extreme.
All right. We'll get into, I think, my biggest problem realistically with the DC universe and what it should really be called right now. But what's incredibly frustrating is I understand, and I'm not on the writer side of this when it happened. Different story now. I've written about several Man of Tomorrow things on Multiverse of Color, but that initial announcement of Gods and Monsters is aging like left out milk. It's really unfortunate because Lanterns is incredible, and I'm just spoilers for people who are excited. I think episode 2 is better than episode 1, but we'll get into a full discussion on that specifically. The thing about a DC shared universe is it needs to feel like a DC shared universe, and there's a red and blue part of that universe that's building out really well to some degree. Well, again, there's another thing we're going to discuss later on, but there's a conversation that was had on the Lanterns podcast that HBO themselves put out, where Damon Lindelof and Tom King talked about, we had all these ideas and da-da-da. On the outside, that might sound like, oh, it was really cool. They had all these ideas. Were they just ideas? And then you decided to announce them? Because I don't, quite frankly, want to hear about any other projects from this studio until you've greenlit a pilot, because at least that means you're shooting a pilot, or you're doing a straight to 8 episode order, or a film has a director and a writer. Sometimes it's in a different order. Sometimes you have the lead actor first. If you go the Black Panther route, he was cast in Civil War first, but we knew Black Panther was eventually going to be down the road. Because of the merger, which is the shadow in the background of everything, unfortunately, with Warner in general, this stuff does give me anxiety because some of the more unique elements that we were being led astray, but were being announced. Like, okay, bringing it back to Lanterns, Andy, and then you let me know your thoughts. It was pitched as Paradise Lost was Game of Thrones-esque Themyscira, right? Lanterns, True Detective. We have seen, to some degree, obviously not the entire season, but reviews are very good. Even in this first episode, reception was incredibly high to, I saw the YouTube comments on my stuff, Beige Lanterns. But that the pitch made it through, and that's what they made successfully, right? Booster Gold, in terms of tone and genre, really much could, and again, still entirely possible that show gets made, fits into that much more, I would say, Gen Z or Z level of comedy with who he is as a character. Booster Gold, I absolutely adore him, but his
Yeah,
whole emphasis on coming to our timeline to become a superhero, to become famous, and the relationships. If people want to see a great Booster Gold pilot, watch The Greatest Story Never Told, the Justice League Unlimited episode. If you don't know who Booster Gold is, watch that episode and what that character could mean in the larger landscape. The thing that I'm most frustrated about is we are building out kind of the fringes of some of this stuff, which is great. And you can do that to some degree. And this is where I will give Marvel credit. They gave us our main heroes, and then we started to expand outward. To some degree, you can do what DC is doing. I think Clayface, as a less expensive movie, horror is obviously one of the most successful genres in Hollywood right now, specifically.
especially with Warner Brothers.
Exactly. I totally agree. But some of this stuff that we've been waiting to hear about, and I'm only going to say it once because it's relevant to my rambling right now, Brave and the Bold. And as of right now, we have two things for sure. We likely have Creature Commando Season 2, and we have Man of Tomorrow. Both of those things are continuations on stuff we already have. Moving forward, we have no idea what we're getting. And that's I don't like that place right now.
See, but okay, so let's go back to when it comes to initial announcement. I understand, and this is not me defending DC Studio or James Gunn, but it is just someone as a journalist who's been following this space for the last decade and a half or whatever. I understand that they probably felt that there needed to be a good slate to announce when that when that January 2023 announcement happened, that it wasn't enough to just have these handful of projects. I think and I think also maybe back then, because again, here's the thing: some things sometimes do fall through. Generally, they just do. Like sometimes we can't see it coming. It happens. That's just the way life is. It's happened with Marvel several times, and DC. I think it's only happened. I think really right now the thing that really feels dead is likely the Authority. And I think, but again, I think that's something that could easily get retooled into something down the line. I think it's more so the fact that they announce these things, and then a lot of different factors came into play after January 2023, because David Zaslav was doing things with Warner Brothers still at that point. DC Studio was still finding its foot and grounding. Then the strikes happened. 2 strikes happened, and there's been a lot of things that have been happening in the background. And the thing is, when I saw the Booster Gold thing, for example, I said that it's obviously not been canceled fully. They just started canceling this version, and lo and behold, within an hour, Variety had something up and saying that they're looking for a new creative team. And I'm like, see, this is how television works. And then with Waller and Paradise Lost, and then there was also reports. Again, we don't know if these parts were true yet, but there were supposedly solo shows pitched for a Catwoman series and a Poison Ivy series. We don't know if it was in the Matt Reeves DC Elseworlds universe or if it was part of the DCU, because again, James has not commented on this. So again, it may not even be true. And the thing is also, like, what people need to understand is that just because these are big, great, famous characters that someone makes a pitch for, it doesn't mean that you automatically have to greenlight something just for the sake of it. Because like we're gonna greenlight a Catwoman show, even though this pitch is horrendous, we're gonna greenlight it because it is Catwoman. Like, that's not how it should work with people. It should be that you rather get the right pitch, the right vision, the right showrunners, and the right direction of the series, and then you go forward with it. That's why look at what happened with Between Lanterns and Greg Berlanti's Green Lantern TV shows, because he had 2. That he had the first one with all those characters together, then he was doing a Jon Stewart one, but look what happened there. Like they gave it an 8-episode order too early, and I feel bad because some of those writers are my friends who worked on that Green Lantern project. I feel bad for them that those 8 episodes will never see the light of day, and I think that was HBO Max jumping the gun a little too far, and now they're learning that let's even though we're cable, let's do it like a broadcast network would do. You put it into development. You give it a pilot order. You give it a pilot go. that you review the pilot, whether you film it or you just go buy up the script. That's different, you know, because in this case
Mhm.
with Boosticle, they didn't film anything. They just wrote the pilot. He submitted it. They didn't like it, and they moved on. So for me, the fact that Waller and Paradise Lost are on the back burner, not canceled, they're on the back burner. I think it stems to three things. One, the potential merger. That's why I think they're being very careful with what can and cannot move forward right now at something like HBO Max, and then look at all their other platforms like TNT, TBS, um, you know, all these other platforms that they have. Not everything is getting renewed or canceled right now because they don't know what their company is going to look like in a year from now, because there is this big political battle, because everyone in Hollywood and many parts of the world are trying to stop this merger from happening because it is a genuinely bad idea. So I think,
Monopolies are bad.
yes, it
I live
is.
in one in Canada where we have two telecommunication companies. That's it.
There you go. There you go. And that's why I think I'd rather these shows not get picked up the series right away, start casting, filming, and everything, and then suddenly in the middle of, if this merger happens, they just go, nope, tax write-offs. Let's do like Batgirl, like, and also, and
Rip.
here's the thing. I think in the case of the Waller show, I think that's the one where they're like, I think they might have one too many ideas for what to do with that show. I think there's one side. This is just me speculating. I'm not saying anything that I've heard, but if I had to guess, I think they're speculating that I think that someone is either saying, what if we did it as a checkmate show? No, what if we did it as like a Amanda Waller origin story series? No, what if we do it as a Secret Six series? No, what if we do, like, I think there are so many things they're trying to figure out, like, what should Waller be, that they're like, they might not even be able to make up their minds, because there's so many, you know, because again, Emmanuel is a really rich character. You have someone like Viola Davis starring and executive producing, and that means that you have a lot of star power to run with. There also Jeremy Carver, who created Doom Patrol for HBO Max, one of the most successful, critically acclaimed DC shows of all time. Crystal Henry, I think, is the other showrunner. She worked on Watchmen. Damon Lindelof's Watchmen. So you have a lot of great factors there, and I think that, but also, like, you got to remember, Viola Davis is a very busy star. She's doing a lot of things, so it could be coming down to that as well. And if I had to guess, that's why they're like, we don't know what to do with Waller because there's so much going on. In the case of Paradise Lost, I think it's definitely more so the merger affecting things, or they're waiting to get the right pitch, because I think because they know that Game of Thrones sells, and and look what happened. True Detective became a huge success. What did Warner Brothers DC decide to do? Let's apply True Detective to DC. So why there's no way in hell that I think they're going to push one Paradise Lost to the side. It could also be that, because another project that I know we've been waiting to hear more updates on is the Wonder Woman solo movie, and it could be that maybe that the film will happen first and then they will go forward with the series. But again, nothing's been canceled. That's my frustration with people thinking that because one pitch doesn't go through, it means it gets canceled. No, this happens all the time. I will bring up an example, and then we will get to the last piece of news that we will discuss before we talk about episode 2. When the Flash TV series was in development for the CW, this was initial plan. A lot of people forget that this was initial plan for how they were going to do it. They had decided they're going to use Barry Allen in 3 episodes, episode 8 and 9, and then in the 20th episode of Arrow season 2, that was going to be something for people who are listening to this at home, if they don't know what this concept is. They were going to do a backdoor pilot where we were going to go and pick up where we left off with Barry Allen after he got into a coma, and we were going to meet some of the supporting characters. We did maybe not all of them. Maybe you would have probably met Iris, Caitlin, Cisco. You would have had mentions of Harrison Wells, and that's pretty much it. But then they saw how well these 2 first episodes with Barry were received, with Grant Gustin in them. They were like, we're gonna skip the backdoor pilot and we're gonna give him a traditional pilot. A lot of these things in television do change sometimes at a of an eye. The ratings were great for those 2 episodes. Everyone loved Grant as Barry, and they were like, let's give him a full traditional pilot. And we still got some of those characters showing up in season 2 of Arrow, like Caitlin Snow and Cisco Ramon came over for an episode. You got to get to meet Daniel Panamaker and Carlos Valdez for a couple of scenes. And then you had your pilot. And I think that what's happening with these HBO titles, and the fact that they're even considering Booster Gold for HBO. It's like, okay, they want this to be something like that. It works both for, because Booster Gold, listen, like I love them because of the comedic aspects, but there is a lot of dramatic emotional depth to Michael John Carter. So I think that if this, and this is no offense to the guy who had just submitted a pilot script for it, no offense, but if his vision did not meet what DC and Warner Bros. Were looking for, then it's okay to move on and find something else. Like I rather, because Booster Gold, they've been trying to make a Booster Gold project for a decade. Sci-Fi tried to do a Booster Gold TV show. They tried to do a Booster Gold movie with my buddy Zach Stentz for Greg Berlanti, and now they're back to trying Booster Gold again as a series. And I think he belongs as a television series, and I think having it on HBO would be, very fitting, because again, I think that if you again, this was a very short-lived series, but the franchise that ran on HBO was kind of this like meta commentary on like that genre in Hollywood. And I think Booster Gold in a lot of ways, like even though I don't fully see the Gen Z aspect of it, I can see that will be something that appeals more to that audience as well. And that's why I can see them they're doing it. We don't want to just make it as an HBO Max thing. We want to do it as an HBO property that also airs on HBO Max. So again, I think that right now people should not start feeling nervous or like worried about the DCU. I think that right now, like if anything, I'm glad that we're getting the DCU in the chunks we're getting. Don't rush things. Don't announce too many things at the same time. I get why they did the slate announcement the way they did it, and again, so far some things have happened, some things haven't. But
batting about 50% right now.
I don't think the DCU is becoming what Lucasfilm became during the sequel trilogy to whenever they stopped. I just personally don't think it's that bad yet. I think the problem we have as a society in general is the fact that we are using the MCU and something like Star Wars as almost like these foundational standards that has to now apply to every IP franchise that comes after them. And I just don't agree with that.
Okay.
I just don't think that's the right way to look at it, because the MCU, yes, as far as many things they did right in phase 1, it wasn't fully flawless at the start. Phase 2 already had a lot of cracks, like the fact that their second Avengers movie, their second Thor movie were critically not that well received. And the fact that James Gunn, again, he comes from that world as both a filmmaker, as someone who worked in the MCU and could see what worked and what didn't work, and he's hopefully bringing over as much as what worked with MCU over DC. So for me, I think you can feel however you feel, Kyle, as well as anyone else watching or listening to this. I just feel it is too early to say that the DCU is feeling shaky at this point, just because of the fact that we're already moving up forward with another Superman continuation. We know that there is something else they have planned for Supergirl, and the fact that I said, because of Hollywood's constant evolution, with battling AI, dealing with these strikes, and now dealing with mergers, yes, some things are going to take longer than others. The reason why Marvel Studios can move forward a lot of it is because Disney's not worried about a freaking merger every second year. So, but on that note, here's something that is moving forward. We're going to talk about this. And Kyle is going to read you the official synopsis of HBO Max's next DC endeavor, which is The People versus Gorilla Grodd, an 8-episode series that has been fully picked up and will air on HBO Max. So Kyle, take it away.
Sorry, it minimized on me. So the Daily Planet announced today it will begin production on an 8-part documentary series that will dive back into Metropolis' most infamous murder trial. The People versus Gorilla Grodd will take a fresh 360-degree look at the case, revealing a lesser-seen side of the hyper-intelligent ape. According to the film's first-time director, Jimmy Olsen was granted unprecedented exclusive access to the interview Grodd inside Stryker's Island Penitentiary for the documentary. I almost said God. I mean, he's close enough. Gorilla Grodd has long claimed his innocence in the murder and brain consumption of his father, King Grodd, a crime he was convicted of in March of 2021. and has remained incarcerated ever since. The series will take an in-depth look at the investigation, featuring brand new reporting from the members of the Daily Planet staff, as well as interviews with witnesses and experts on both Grodd's and the Metropolis District Attorney's side of the case, including Gorilla Grodd's new counsel at the Metropolis Freedom Project. Everyone thinks they know Grodd, the power-hungry gorilla who has killed his father for the throne of Gorilla City, said Perry White, managing editor of the Daily Planet and the documentary's supervising producer. But once you start to look beneath the fur, you start to realize there is a lot more to that primate.
And that was the in-universe press release for the just for people who are listening and are seeing this image in front of them. The cast will star Skylar Gazindo as Jimmy Olsen, Jimmy Tatro as Gorilla Grodd, and Beck Bennett as Steve Lombard, Michaela Hoover as Cat Grant, and Wendell Pierce as Perry White. The show also stars Mary Holland, Eduardo Franco, Ariana Moyaid. I should be able to say this because he's one of my fellow Persians. Dan Perrault, Andrew Leeds, and Tim Bolts. Tony Yacenda and Dan Perrault will serve as showrunners, writers, and executive producers, with Yacenda set to direct all episodes. And the logline goes: a super intelligent ape is convicted of murdering his father, the king of Gorilla City, in an 8-part true crime docuseries. The Daily Planet's Jimmy Olsen reopens the case, investigating whether Gorilla Grodd was wrongly convicted in one of Metropolis' most famous murder trials. So, a lot of people have mixed opinions on this. I'd rather prefer it if this had been Lois Lane's show. Listen, I'm gonna watch it. I'll watch it. Listen, as a Flash fan, if you guys are watching, I will always take more Flash content in the DCU because I'm quite frankly not sure when we're gonna get the Flash in the DCU. But the fact that we're getting Gorilla Grodd hopefully means that we will get some clues and hints to what the Flash is up to in the DCU and which Flash we're following. But listen, this show sounds like it could be fun. Like, am I wishing that? Was I wishing for the show to happen? No, I never even gave this two thoughts before this was announced. But I was wrong about Peacemaker season 1. I thought Peacemaker was like, this is a waste of my time. I'm not gonna watch it. And then I watched the first couple episodes. I'm like, okay, fuck, I kind of like this. And then season 2 happened, and we don't need to talk about season 2. But with this, I'm like, okay, it's obviously a limited series because they're calling it The People versus Gorilla Grodd. And I kind of feel they should have had an anthology title so that they could kind of do this for multiple seasons if they wanted to. But again, a 30-minute comedy, seeing these other Daily Planet characters. Like, again, I knew they were going to do something with other Daily Planet characters at some point. So this will be fun to see how it works. Kyle, you seem not amused by this project. You're muted.
You heard me read it, right? That the reading, yes. I read the script. Okay. I don't know when I muted myself. So you brought up a very apt comparison, which was Peacemaker. Now, I know I'm in the
season one.
Yes. I think that was specifically what I was going to refer to. I am in the minority. I have a lot of issues with season 1. Having seen all of Peacemaker now, it is easily the better season. I do think there are better ideas in Peacemaker season 2, but the execution, you can watch all 8 episodes of the DC Studios podcast on Peacemaker, and the couple times Andy popped over to Film Realist because we discussed at least the pilot or the first episode of season 2. I know for sure.
Was it 8 episodes?
8 or 10. 8 or 10. It's modern streaming numbers. I'm right with one of those. I hate this. I really do, because so here's my problem, and I changed for the sake of this conversation.
Oh my God, I didn't even notice it until you said it. I'm like, wow, he really, okay. That's good to know that he actually goes and changes clothes when I'm reading stuff.
No, it was
But
before that. When I was reading, I was changing my shirt, which worked out for me because I was off camera. It's not only multiverse. But so here's where my issue lies. And this is a genuine problem I have, which is so many of James Gunn's friends just get stuff. And I loved Superman. I think in my opinion, and this is where, again, it's always opinion based. That's the whole point here. And if you differ, I would love to have a conversation. Not just you, Andy. Obviously, we're having one, but with the fans of the DCU in general. I love Superman. It's my favorite James Gunn film. That Peacemaker comes out of, I had a lot of fun with John Cena and the Suicide Squad, which I don't think is a very good movie, but we're not here to talk about that. This coincides with some of the things that I was talking about, and you are absolutely correct that so much of this is in limbo because of the merger. David Zaslav is ruining Warner Brothers, and that's not even an opinion, it's a fact. We are finally getting Coyote versus Acme. I was talking to my wife about that film earlier today. Coyote versus Acme is finally coming out in a week from now, which I'm very excited to see. It's been getting absolutely great reviews. And Batgirl got canned. He doesn't want to pay, allegedly, Margot Robbie and Ryan Gosling what they deserve for Barbie 2, which made $1 billion, in spite of you, David. You had nothing to do with that film other than, I think Greta Gerwig makes good movies. Congratulations, you're not a complete moron. What's so frustrating is because Warner Brothers owns all of DC, that we're in this limbo. And I'm sorry, I don't care about this show. Don't get me wrong, Andy. You know this is the case for me. I love me Flash. I love The Flash. I watched all 9 seasons. I got a Flash ring. They're all on Blu-ray behind me. You can't see it because of the way this is lit, but they're there. You know they're there, Andy. We've talked about this. But this show is just enough. Like, this is where we're allocating resources. I don't think I tweeted this because I do my best, because Twitter is an awful place, to put out as little negativity in terms of Twitter. But my opinion so far of the DC universe, outside of Lanterns, is it's not the DC universe. It's Superman and friends. Because we got Supergirl, we had a whole podcast on it. I quite like Supergirl, but to be fair to me, in my opinion of this, we knew we were getting Supergirl. It was actually on the slate that was announced in 2023. Okay. And then we're getting Superman, Man of Tomorrow, or Man of Tomorrow if they want to Dark Knight it. I am incredibly excited for that film. I've written about it a lot on Multiverse of Color. But I said this earlier today. After that, what are we doing? I love how James is going around talking about the Superman saga, and I would say for the most part, it seems like he's pretty much figured out the Superman saga. I thought Jimmy worked fine in Superman. I don't care to watch a show where he is the lead character. What has been so great for Skylar is his comedy works so brilliantly as a supporting actor. And that is not a criticism of his qualities as an actor. Some people fit better on in terms of their dynamic being in the background. He's in one of my favorite comedies, Booksmart. He's hilarious in Booksmart. Fantastic. But we're allocating money to this. Like, maybe the script was absolutely incredible and it's going to be a laugh riot. I don't think this is going to ultimately release on HBO. I think it's going to be HBO Max.
Yeah, well, it's only 30 minutes.
Yeah,
and
30 minutes.
And I think only a handful of like comedies make it to HBO, and I don't think this is one of them that they want to go for. So
I understand it filling out the universe, and James has said, and we have no reason to not believe him, that maybe the script came in and it blew people away. I know, because of what we are aware of with following this stuff as closely as we do, that there are certain characters that are likely further on the back burner because of recent events. But in James's own words, The Flash was one of the greatest comic book movies of all time. And
But
How did
again,
that
in his
go?
defense,
No,
what do you
he
expect a
said that.
CEO? I know he
Don't say
said that, but
that.
what?
He lied to my face. He did
But
the
what is
same
it?
thing James Cameron did. I was sitting in Cineplex, and James Cameron, fellow Canadian, said to me personally, Kyle Naranya, if you love Terminator 1 and Terminator 2, you're going to love Terminator Genesis. James, no, I didn't. It's awful. It's worse than Terminator 3. And the only reason Terminator 3 happened, and you've said this publicly, is you told Arnold, go get that bank. And I'm never going to criticize an actor for getting paid, especially for what Arnold did through his career. But in the flux we live in right now with this universe, this is not the project I care to see greenlit at all. Again, so much of this stuff is probably not known. It is the worst part of this industry that we're a part of, where things get announced or scooped. Like, we didn't even talk about, there's a bunch of things that may be happening. We don't know. There's a Bane and Deathstroke movie. I saw something while we're recording, which is relevant to bring up right now. Allegedly, Alan Ritchson has signed a multi-picture deal to be Bane. I think that's awesome. I don't think he was ever going to be Batman. It might have, I don't know. I just saw it very briefly while you were reading stuff. So that may not be happening at all, but that is super. If like this movie happens, but at the end of it, for me, all we really have is Superman stuff. We have a horror movie that I think it's probably a safe bet. I don't actually, you know what? I'm going to change my mind. I don't think Bruce Wayne or Batman's going to be in it. If it's a great Clayface movie, it's a great Clayface movie.
Yeah,
But
there is no there is no
yeah, so
Batman.
yes,
If if there is a cameo by Batman somehow, it's just gonna be like a shadow or like someone in a silhouette. Did not know about the Alan Ritchson thing. I love Alan Ritchson, but he is not Bane. And before people get me in the comments, yes, I am aware that he is a huge dude, but also Alan Ritchson is not Latino. Bane is a Latino character. No matter
that's
how
a very,
many times,
very valid point.
no matter how many times Hollywood has tried to erase his ethnicity, us hardcore, real, true Bane fans, we know that he's Latino. He's a brown man, and he should be played by a Latino actor.
You know, my favorite version of Bane, at least in media, is the one. It's not in it a ton, but in Young Justice. I love that version of Bane.
I was terrified that you were somehow going to make some
Hardy.
sort of. No, I love Tom Hardy as Bane. Like again, listen, as inappropriate as that casting is, in that world, I'm like, Bane is just something else, and it works. But I thought you were really going to say, but Andy, I already did like Bane and Batman and Robin. And I would have been like, I am done with this podcast. I am done with this man. I will go back to not knowing who this man is. Sorry to this man. I don't know who he is. I will go Kiki Palmer. Like, so.
But yeah, no, the funniest thing about the Batman and Robin one, and so many millennials.
We don't have time. We don't have time.
It's relevant to his introduction, which for so many millennials was in Batman the Animated Series, where he was, in fact, Latino, which I think is what's hilarious about that character. So just even if that does, sorry, I just saw it. So if it doesn't happen, it didn't happen. If it does happen, I don't know. But I'm just, it's a running joke, and Andy, please cut me off whenever you want to, because it's kind of a meme every time we've done a trailer reaction or whatever. And I'm like, but what about Batman or whatever? I do have sincere frustration. Lanterns is my bright light, pun intended. You can't actually see it because of it doesn't matter, because it is a Green Lantern. It is a leaguer, right? Like, we got some supporting leaguers, like Justice Gangers. That's a weird sentence. In Superman, we know they're going to be carrying forward. We know that Jon Stewart is going to be a part of Man of Tomorrow. We know we're getting the Batman film in 2028 now. And outside of all these random things they're announcing, like this, I think where I am right now, could this be funny? Sure. Is this going to be meaningful? Probably not. Like, it'll be forgettable. And that's the thing I don't want. I don't want DCU stuff to be forgettable right now.
Well, I don't think we can call it forgettable when we haven't seen an inch of footage yet. Yes. They haven't even started filming it. I think they're going to start filming later this month or something. So I would say let's just. I'm gonna watch it no matter what because I like the DC and I want to keep up with it. Um, but I do wonder, like, again, I think this is something that it was kind of probably very cheap for them to make, and something they can kind of like just fill the void a little bit as we're trying to get these other bigger projects off the ground. And there could also be, other things they're planting through that project that could lead to some of these other bigger films and shows that we're looking forward to. Because again, if they're getting ready to explore Gorilla Grodd in the DCU, like maybe we are somewhere closer to finally seeing what Flash is like in this franchise. But with that said, let's talk about episode 2 of Lantern season 1, and I'm going to hand it off to Kyle to lead the discussion.
Oh, I don't have time to get changed. Okay. So
That's not my fault.
No, that's true. I'll just hang it up behind me. That looks terrible. I'm gonna take that down. Lanterns episode 2. It's very exciting. I think what's so funny is so much of our discussion for episode 1 was how effective it was as a pilot, right? And I said this in the short I put out that's part of the larger discussion, which was it introduces the lore of the Lanterns. We get to see the origin story of Hal Jordan. We get teases of John's backstory. And then most importantly, you have to sell the dynamic of your two lead characters. I said this in episode 1. It is the lethal weapon dynamic of Murtaugh and Riggs, but we've just flipped it. So for those of you who are too young to have seen any of the lethal weapons, because I'm old, Detective Riggs was Mel Gibson's character, who was the wild card, but he was the rookie. And Detective Murtaugh, played by, oh my gosh, I've forgotten his first name, because I just want to say Donald Glover, and that's not his name, because that's a different actor. I'm very mad at myself that I've forgotten his name. Danny Glover. That's why, because their names both have a D at the beginning. So that we've switched up that dynamic, and we understand the selling point from that first episode. What I loved about episode 2, Andy, is we get to see the characters work independently on their own. And what that does is it solidifies their own identity, as opposed to, for the most part, episode 1 is who are they together, right? We get glimpses of who the characters are in their very weird relationship. Yes, sir. Which I love that scene in the car from episode 1. But we see it opens with, and if you're tracking this with, if you've seen the episode or you're just watching the trailers and you're listening to us talk about it beforehand, that's a choice, but you do you, where Hal wakes him up by throwing the bucket of water and asks him to fly, which we've now seen in a trailer. And he creates a bird, a construct that this is the first actual tangible construct we've seen John make. It was a deliberate purpose in the first episode that we didn't see the bubble wrap. The minute ways in which constructs have sort of served the story, I find incredibly interesting so far. And we get to see Hal functioning independently as an actual investigator. He's a space cop. What is it that brought him to Nebraska? And the way in which we explore specifically Hal's relationship with this location. The ring has run out of juice, so he sends John on another fetch quest to go get the lantern, and he's got some things that he has to do. One of my favorite things about this episode, and I wrote it in all caps, which is the pocket dimension in which Hal is hiding the lantern. And we've seen this in the trailer. It's John reaching into space, but the password to open that vault is, and for diehard Green Lanterns fans, I hope you appreciate this as much as I do, which was Mogo doesn't socialize, which I audibly laughed out loud. Mogo is a planet-sized Green Lantern, for those who don't know who he is. And that kind of lore building, I'm totally here for it. Like, anybody who's concerned about beige lanterns, get off this unwatered lawn, because this show is through and through diving into the Green Lantern lore. And more than anything, the first episode is very much like what's going on. This episode is why is going on, to quote Drax from Infinity War. So last episode is what aliens? This episode is why aliens, which is it's Manhunters, baby. And for my DCAU fans, the 2 episodes that really focused on Jon Stewart, they had to do with the Manhunters too, they are the original creations of the Guardians to police the universe. And things didn't go well, and safe to say the Manhunters, they don't like Guardians very much, or Guardians or the Green Lanterns. And we see what was a heavy portion of the trailers, which is John's interrogation scene, which is maybe the most exposition heavy moment we've had so far in the series. We get to see that the aliens that were in Nebraska were actually looking for this manhunter who can hide amongst the people. That is one of the contrivances of this series. I don't super love that everyone can just sort of be a human.
There's a lot of shape-shifting going on.
One of my favorite parts about seeing John function on his own is in the first episode, Hal is testing his awareness, right? What do you see? What is he observing? And we see his conversation with Carrie, which is one of the best moments just in terms of her significance as the sheriff, right? We talked about it. She is with it. She's not just completely clueless as to what's going on. But John's reverence for what it means to be a Green Lantern, like he's holding the lantern. He uses the ring to make a construct. And then he sees the suit, which we saw in the trailer in Hal's my closet. And then we get to meet the plant. The plant thing I could have lived without. The Earl stuff was just kind of to be funny.
It was cute because it means that Hal actually has, so that there was something that he nurtured and something he took care of. That was because when you look around that for that whole huge mansion or house, whatever, it's like John makes a point of when are you thinking of moving in? He's like, I got a bed. Bitch, that's not a home. So that Earl is something that he connects with, kind of gives you this idea that there is something soft in Hal that he cares for and that he wants to make sure, take care of and make sure that they're not forgotten. And so for me, I'm it didn't take up a big chunk of the episode where I'm like, oh my god, this is so annoying. It didn't become the bird blindness version in this show. So again, it's something small, sweet in the background, and just something to give you the idea that as much as it seems like Hal is just into this Green Lantern life, there is something that still kind of grounds and something that brings him back to that home, besides just recharging his lantern. I also fucking love the lantern design.
It's so cool.
It's clean, but it feels
awesome.
Clean up. It also feels not modern. It just feels, what's the word I'm looking for?
Natural? It feels ancient. It feels because it is supposed to be extraterrestrial. And you know what? People will have a lot of criticisms of the 2011 film, and they should. A lot of fair ones. What I appreciated about the lantern and the ring was there was an unearthness to them.
Yes.
The lantern is recognizable as an old oil lantern, much more in a way than it's what's sort of become of I would say the iconic version, which is something you have behind you for our video listeners. But the way that the ring locks into it, and you brought up bird blindness, which now my segue feels old, but the challenge for John this whole episode is Hal challenges him to keep that bird construct alive, which is something that the other aliens are incredibly impressed by. You're not wearing the ring. How is this thing being kept alive? And John is having to concentrate on keeping this bird alive while being abducted, while getting free, while getting his mind completely scrambled and incepted with a bunch of ideas, and then being left off on his own. And Hal, on the flip side of this, starts to challenge more of the things that are going around in this small town, right? He has conversations with Carrie and realizing that these metal detectors aren't going off with metal. And even if you're ahead of him, you're like, oh, there might be alien detectors. Well, how the heck he's just going to drag corpses through the metal detectors. And what he puts John's rental car through is that to me is the best kind of humor with a character. They're not, to quote our UK viewers, they're not taking the piss out of Hal Jordan. It's just situationally ridiculous. Well,
Yeah.
how am I going to test this? I've got alien corpses. That's the best way. And then this starts sort of lifting the covers on what's going on with the Makins, right? They don't like that he's really snooping around.
Oh, they mad.
And we see the confidence behind Hal, even without the ring. Something I appreciate so much that Damien Lindelof said that contextually is a great thing that I had really never heard anyone really discuss when it came to discussing the Green Lantern ring, which was the use of it as a weapon. It can be obviously used as a tool for creation and whatnot, but the hesitancy to use it because of how extreme it can. This was in the first episode of the podcast that they did, where the use of it like a firearm and not wanting to, I mean, the sort of lack of awareness in that statement, but the way that Hal views it and his confidence in who he is, and obviously things don't go well for him because he gets shot. But it shows where Carrie is, right? We see what side of this whole thing is. She's not super happy about it, and she's from Gotham.
Yes, and I don't have the clip ready, but like it's probably gonna be out by the time this episode of the podcast is out. Because I did the junket for lanterns, and this was one of the things I directly did ask Kelly McDonald, that her last name is Kane, and that she's from Gotham, and I'm like, and I kind of just asked her like, does the character Batwoman mean anything to you? Like, does she have relatives back in Gotham? And she's kind of like, I mean, she definitely has relatives, but like she was.
You don't use that last name in anything without knowing.
Yeah, I mean, if there is not a Kate Kane who's related to Carrie Kane, then I would be like, James, what are you doing? And because like, I mean, obviously, like when they use that last name and they use that she's from Gotham City, they obviously must have talked to James, been like, hey, can we use these references? And if he says, well, you know that Kane and Gotham have a larger meaning in the DC mythos, right? Because again, either this was an accidental, like just a coincidence that they named her Kane and made her from Gotham, or they were like, well, what kind of fun ways can we find to connect the larger DCU through through lanterns this time? So
her name could have been Bullock, like she moved. She's Carrie Bullock.
Could you imagine like Harvey having a sister who's like the complete opposite of him, where like he's like loud, all these goofy things, and then she's like the sophisticated who keeps her shit together. I'm like, that would be like actually hilarious.
Yeah, my maiden name is Bullock.
Yeah, but no, I love Carrie, and I love the fact that it's that, because again, even though I am never pro any type of propaganda that anyone does, because if you follow real life events, you know that cops are problematic. And I would say in this case, having a figure who represents law enforcement from the Earth side of things, because again, they're really dialing up this whole idea that Green Lanterns are space cops. Well, okay, they're space cops on Earth. Obviously, we should have someone of a cop figure, and not doing the trope of like, let's just portray them as like completely stupid. Of course, he changed his shirt, and of course, having Carrie being like self-aware, being allowed to be smart. I like that, because also Kelly McDonald, she's a great actor. She's a great actor, and I think that we need, like, in the fact that she's even questioning what the Makins are doing, but she's in a very difficult position. It adds a lot of stakes, and there's a great episode coming up for her later in the season that I like, that is very much centered on her. So, and again, I don't think that's a spoiler. I'm not gonna say which episode number. I'm not gonna say what happens in it. But like, there is an episode where we learn a lot more about her. But yeah, I did laugh a lot when I saw the last name Kane and Gotham. I'm like, bitch, are you kidding me? Like, bitch, James Gunn, are you kidding me right now? Like, you thought that was gonna be like something just like, because again, when they announced her, I think she was only named Carrie. I think they only said her. Yeah. So when like I was watching the screen, I'm like, Kane. I'm like, okay, funny. And then like, I'm from Gotham. I'm like,
because it doesn't mean anything until the Gotham part. Like, you can just be Sheriff Kane, whatever.
Yeah, it could be Cain. It could
Yeah.
be
Yep.
Cane.
Like Michael
And
Caine.
Mark Kine.
Michael Caine.
I'll say this: when it comes to show, first of all, because yeah, having them split off was I kind of thought, oh, of course they're gonna do it because Hal is not gonna get on a flight and go pick up his own lander. He's gonna send, his rookie. He's gonna go send his protege or whatever. But it also allowed us to give John some adventures of his own, and with Anton and these other beings. Um, again, the fact that they are, again, they're very interesting in the way of they don't want innocent people to die, but they're like, if we don't get this shit done, Rushville is going down no matter what. And the fact that they also get to see, and this is where we also see how Hal and John are so different. That you were saying that Hal uses his ring as a weapon, but John, without a ring, was holding this construct of a bird. I don't know how far it is between where he traveled, but it's like the fact that he
He's in
uses
Coast City,
it
which
was
is
Coast City, right?
Yeah, which is usually in like California. So that's a Google map how far that is.
So the Arrowverse did it because the Arrowverse made Coast City as like it's like nearby Central City.
I believe that's where it's supposed to be. Though I'll correct. Yeah, California.
Okay.
Yeah, let's go.
Yeah. So the fact that he could still manifest that bird construct all the way from Rushville to Coast City shows that John looks at the ring not purely as a weapon, but as a tool of creation of multiple latitudes, of multiple things that he can do. So,
according to the comics, Star City is usually in California or Washington State. So,
wow, Arrowverse. I like the Arrowverse just made everything seem like they was on the East Coast, and then National City was like West Coast.
Well,
so
it's because Vancouver looks like every eastern coast city in the U.S.
I know, but it's just funny because like the entire time it seemed like that they made Star City and Central City East Coast cities, and then when National City became canon to the Earth Prime lineup, it was always still like it is still on the West Coast, and I think Freeland was like somewhere in like it was like Central Time or whatever.
It was Detroit area typically, isn't it?
Something like that.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed the fact that again that there, these characters are making John question: should I actually trust Hal? Should I be listening and following Hal like this? And the fact that John, he comes with a set of information, and he's like, now I have the power, now I have the dynamic, and I want to see if you're proving them right, or if I can prove them wrong by saying that you have it in you to actually be someone that can collaborate, coordinate, and work together. So, it's interesting, and I really enjoyed that because, again, like we know it's a very intense dynamic, and that they're. I mean, I wouldn't say frenemies, but there's an aspect to their
antagonistic.
It's antagonistic at times, where like, they still have a lot of things they have to overcome in their dynamics. So, but I also love the scene in the town hall.
Yeah, such a great scene.
It's like this is the thing that, and I hope that everyone and their mothers who went on this tire of, oh my god, we're getting such a downgrade with Kyle Chandler as Hal Jordan, are eating shit right now, because this is one of the best castings for this specific reason. He makes drama and comedy blend together so well that it's like you almost get afraid to laugh at him when he's funny, because you're like, well, shit, he's trying to make a point. He's trying to actually like warn people, but he does it so charismatically that it's like it's hilarious. It's very
he's caramel because it's so smooth and tasty, but so bad for you because it's just sugar. Like his fluidity in terms of like the real drama, and we haven't talked about my favorite part, which is the last like 5 minutes of this episode, but he can be incredibly serious, but also in the midst of those just hilariously funny, because his his perspective on everything that's going on is so much grander than everybody's. Like, for context, like in the first episode, oh, what's your jurisdiction? I'm Green Lantern. No, but what is your jurisdiction?
I'm Green
I'm
Lantern.
Green Lantern. You're like, yeah, he is, but it's just he's delivering it with such sincerity. It's hilarious.
Yeah, and the fact is that, especially when his ring doesn't have any power, when it's juiced out, there's only so much he can do on his own. There's only so much he can rely on his own as a person. And the fact is that a lot of people, the thing is, when he probably started out as a Green Lantern, he probably had a lot of people. He probably had a lot of people on his side, but someone like the people in Rushville are clearly not admirers of him whatsoever, and they're like, we don't give two fucks about you. We don't care if you're Green Lantern. You don't have jurisdiction over shit over here. So, and Kyle Chandler is just he is such a inspired casting that, like, there's a part of me that still wonders how the fuck did DC Studios ever get to a point where they really were like, but we gotta get Josh Brolin, who has like 80% less charisma as an
Well,
actor.
I think it would have been tonally maybe more. I would not to say gritty is not necessary. It's not a criticism. What Josh Brolin has leaned into specifically throughout his career has obviously worked for him. Like, look at what he did in Dunes or any of the Western stuff he's been involved with as Thanos. Like, there's a gravitas to Josh Brolin that I think comes much more with a different kind of pathos. And tonally, it would have been a very different show. What has worked out so perfectly, and we've all seen so many behind the scenes of other stuff, and it's abundantly clear because nobody would try this hard, that Aaron and Kyle got along so well. And when you have that level of comfortability, it lets them sink their teeth into the drama because you're not afraid of coming out of those scenes and it feeling awkward. It's like, oh man, that was freaking great. Like, you really gave it to me in that speech or whatever, because these two actors, they just gelled so perfectly.
Yeah.
I think Aaron was the one that everyone was agreeing on. But what's so funny is Chris Mundy, who's credited as like the showrunner, worked on Ozarks. Like, he knows Kyle Chandler, and listening to them talk about it when they got Kyle, like Kyle talks about, he read the script, then read it with his family, and like, you have to do this. It's like, yeah, I do. And I think what's frustrating, and I would say up until David Corenswet and Tyler Hoechlin, there was an issue that ran into the big blue and red boy, was there was not a lot of variety in the performance of who Clark Kent and who Superman was. Christopher Reeve was iconic, and so many interpretations really leaned into the Christopher Reeveness. And that's not a criticism of those actors, but tonally, it felt, this is Superman. We're kind of afraid to do anything different. As terrible as it probably would have been, I do think whatever version of Tim Burton's Superman we would have gotten would have at least shown a variety of who that character can be. And Tom Welling had his own run of the character for the 10 years of Smallville, but you can feel the bones of Reeves in there. Like, they quite literally had Christopher Reeve in the show.
I agree and disagree, because I want to get back to Land as soon as possible.
Yeah,
but
I was going to get there.
My thing with Smallville is that I think that Smallville actually did allow Clark and Superman, because I think, he doesn't need a suit to be Superman. Superman is who he is as a character. The fact that they were allowed to evolve him and make him not just relatable, because people for some reason hate when DC is trying to make Superman relatable, but it's like, fuck off. The fact that they actually allowed him layers and times in his life where he's like, I don't want this. I don't want these powers. I don't want the burden of this world on my shoulders. Like, I already lost my civilization of my home planet. I will never get.
How does he know about that civilization? Who told him about that civilization?
I am not denying that.
That doc, by the way, I'm going to cut you off because I think it's important. if Superman fans who are listening to this have not watched the Christopher Reeve documentary, it's incredible. Absolutely spectacular. Sorry.
But I would say that Tom Welling was the first time when I felt like Superman was allowed to finally be a little bit different and not just be, let's just build to making him into Christopher Reeve. Because by the end of the series, Tom's Superman is
a CGI double in the sky.
He did a shirt rip. That's all I needed, and I'm gonna fight anyone who thinks otherwise. But the fact is that when you have someone like Kyle Chandler, you look at something, you go back to 2011 and look at.
That was exactly where I was gonna go.
Ryan Reynolds was just playing Ryan Reynolds in a motion capture suit. Kyle Chandler is playing a Hal Jordan that feels not only so distinctly different, but it's
Hal Jordan.
It's Hal Jordan. It gives you everything that from the comics, from the couple Green Lantern comics I've read with Hal and them. This is like, for me, like, this is the definitive Hal Jordan in my life, because he has, he is a smartass. He is loud. He is cocky. He is also very charming at the same time.
But what Kyle is so able to do so easily is switching back and forth and show there's such a different level to this facade. And the reason I brought all this up to tie it all together is when John asks him about the Manhunters, and we see the reason that John was tracking Rushville because of what he said in episode 1 about knowing exactly where he was he believes that the Manhunters brought Abin Sur down outside of Rushville, which is the reason he has the ring. And for anyone who thought this wasn't going to be a Green Lantern show, I'm sorry. Have you ever seen something on this level that looks at the history of Hal Jordan's origin story while also being about his relationship with a mentor trainee figure in Jon Stewart, a dynamic, mind you, that we've never really explored meaningfully, even in the comics. I've got the Earth Ones behind me. That got canceled before they were really able to dive into Jon Stewart as a Green Lantern. Yes, the art was used for the selling point of what we talked about for the 2023 announcement, but to tile that together to the point where Hal is like, what are we talking about? Oh my God, this is so much more worse than I thought it was going to be, to the point where he powers up his ring, suits up, and where does he go, Andy? Where does he fly to go see?
Sinestro.
Like, episode 1's ending was like, oh my God, like, we got 2026, and this is something I do want to say, and I appreciate people who brought this up. The color grading on that did you know that John was crying? Because I didn't.
I thought he was tearing up.
So in the end of episode 1, when we see John leaning to brush Hal's hand, there's a tear that comes down his face. And like, I loved episode 1, but like what that shows about their relationship, John right now ain't crying if Hal dies. He's probably like, yeah. And then he gets the ring. No big deal. But the journey that they're going to go on is so meaningful to Jon Stewart because we know how he feels about Hal. And Hal, on the flip side of this, is going to see the guy he defeated that was his trainer or whatever, it's Sinestro, and Sinestro's around, baby. Like, say what you will about
that's good makeup.
Like,
that is good.
I feel
makeup. It doesn't look goofy.
No, let's say what you will about Ryan Reynolds. I felt bad for Mark Strong.
I did. Yeah, that was so heartbreaking because when you get to that post-credit scene, you're like, okay, I'm because I was like the whole movie. I'm like, I am so torn on this, CGI energy costume. But then when it turned yellow, I'm like, bitch, I may be a Yellow Lantern at this point because why is it suddenly working for me now? Now I'm like, this works.
Yes. And what does Sinestro know about Manhunters? So good. I'm sorry. I have one other thing to say, and then I can't wait to hear what you have to think about the ending, which is it is so annoying watching as many streaming shows as we do. Because, and I quote Eric Kripke about this a lot, because I think he's right. If you never cut your teeth on network TV, you don't understand the importance of telling episodic television as well as a season-long arc. The worst thing that people have ever thought, Duffer Brothers, is that you're just chopping a movie into pieces. You're not. HBO, yes, you can watch this on streaming later. A lot of people did. One of my favorite experiences I've had with the show so far was I was editing my short for Monday morning, and I just watched this as it was the first episode as it was airing at 9 p.m. on Sunday. That I super enjoyed getting to do that. And then hearing friends and family as they were reacting to what was going on. But episode 1, I've already said everything it does, but it gives you enough. It's not like cliffhanger, we're going to answer everything in the next episode. No, that's not how well-constructed TV seasons work, people. So we have an incredible tease for the story moving forward. Then we get this episode, which is going back to the meat of this story, which is 2016. And then we get pieces that fill out things prior, likely before even 1996. We know that when Hal announced himself, it was 1996 because we've seen it. And this episode goes, hey, you know Hal Jordan? He had a guy that was really important to him. Who's that guy? Sinestro. Here's some more things that are going to lead you. And what do you want to see in the next episode? Should it maybe be in the next episode? That conversation. Each episode builds on the next to a season that tells a whole story. But this episode works on its own, as does the last. That's how this is supposed to work.
Yep. I feel that we will speak more on next week's episode. But yeah, seeing the first glimpse of Sinestro and seeing, first of all, just the sci-fi element of where he's kept, because we see him, Hal flying through space. We see like the advanced prison.
In the suit, baby.
Yeah, and it's, I'm like, whoever came up with the idea, like, let's add a little bit of brown to the screen. Like, it just works.
You feel the history in it, like something that I apologize, that I really appreciated was in the first episode, we see that the oath means something to Hal, right? Like when that alien criminal, not a criminal, working for Anton is saying it, he's like, no, like that is for me. And then after the experience he has in episode 2, when he gets the lantern from John, he's like, I'm brightest day and blackest night, no evil house just gave my side. Let those who worship you so be my park. Like to him, it's it's a meth. It's a tool. I gotta get the thing. I need to get juiced back up. And just all he says is Sinestro. Right? All their history in one proper noun.
Yeah, the fact that he was also the fact that when he was unconscious, and the fact that he slipped out Sinestro in front of Carrie it adds layers. It adds layers. But I think if we keep talking, we're just going to talk about episode 3, and I don't want either of us in trouble. So I want to show that we, unlike some people out there, we don't leak things. So I want to hear what people have to say about this episode. So leave your thoughts in the comments. Let us know on social media. But Kyle, where can we find you on social media? Tell them about the Film Realist and anything else you'd like to promote.
Sure. So I am the host of the Film Realist podcast. That is the film and TV podcast from a complete nobody. My logo's right there. That is hopefully for somebody. August has been incredibly busy. By the time you hear this, I will be releasing my episode on the first half of Star Trek Strange New Worlds Season 4, which I'm absolutely loving. But also, I did manage to get to go see The Magic Faraway Tree. I tweeted my thoughts about it on Film Realist, and it's absolutely delightful. And I'm going to give a brief non-spoiler reasonings for why I think you should probably go see it on this week's episode. And then in the upcoming weeks, I'm hoping to see Coyote versus Acme, because I love me some Looney Tunes animation. And there's going to be there's a big convention in Toronto that hopefully I'll be able to attend. And there's a ton of TV stuff. A lot on Prime Video that I've had the opportunity to see so far. And I gave my thoughts, my non-spoiler thoughts on Reacher Season 4. But you can look forward to my full spoiler thoughts later on in September. So if you loved our conversation that we had here, maybe hop over to Film Realist and you can check out all the stuff there, as well as on Multiverse of Color. I've written a number of things about the DCU. I put out a short about who Sebastian Stan is not playing or is playing. We don't know. But yes, check out the film relist for all those things if you enjoyed my portion of this conversation.
And for people listening, watching this, if you click in the show notes, I've tagged Kyle's channel, which has all the links to where you can subscribe to the podcast on YouTube and on social media. So go do that. It's a fun podcast. I've been on a couple of times, and it's yeah. There's always great discussions happening over there. For me, you can find me at AnimeBite on all social media. I am a senior lead writer at screenrun.com, where I cover all the latest news about TV and film entertainment, as well as occasional interviews here and there. I also run see, now I almost said the multiverseofcolor.com, where you can find all the great work from all of my amazing writers and colleagues who put out their thoughts and perspectives of entertainment media through their perspectives as members of the LGBT community, people of color, Kyle.
My dad's Chinese.
I'm kidding. Yeah, I know. Yes, I love hearing all perspectives. So come check it out. Also, I hope by the time you guys see this on YouTube, at least one of the interviews from my Lanterns Junket will be out with Kelly McDonald, and that but we have more stuff coming up. And yeah, I'm gonna be streaming live again on Twitch, YouTube, and Kick in September for Marvel's Wolverine. That's which I am so excited because I haven't streamed video games in over a year, and well, this is like the game I've been waiting for since the end of Spider-Man 2. So
I pre-ordered the yellow DualSense controller.
I am considering.
I don't have many. I have the purple one. I have the Last of Us Part 2 one, and then I have the 30th anniversary one. Those are the three that I have.
There you go. But yeah, in terms of where you can find Multiverse of Color, all the links are in the show notes below through our social media pages, multiverseofcolor.com, and of course, where you can subscribe to DC Studios podcast, which is what the Lanterns podcast is officially part of. So check us out there. And yeah, we will be back next week with episode 3. So hope you enjoyed episode 2 if you're watching this right after it's been released on HBO and HBO Max. And until next time, have a good one.